Thank you. I call this story Papa Yosef's Shield. We say in Hebrew, Gam ze l'tova. This is also for the good. When my mother was 4 years old, the Nazis flew in, invading Poland, taking over all of Poland in what's called the Anschluss and the onslaught of the Shoah, the Holocaust. My mother is on the shoulders of her father as they're sent away from their home in a town named Rzeszów. They were taken to this town and ghettoized. My mother, on the shoulders of her father, Yosef, looks at the planes. Are those big birds? Her innocence, her not knowing. They're ghettoized in this town with her mother, Stella, who's blonde, along with my mother, dark-haired grandfather, Papa Yosef. And there's their small family, ghettoized. They saw much. They went through much. My grandmother learned that the ghetto would be liquidated the next morning. She panicked. To save her daughter, my mother, Roja, she sewed money and jewels into her jacket and pushed her under a fence to a Polish woman. My mother cried and screamed so loud for her mother and father that the Polish woman took the money and the jewels and pushed her back under the fence, where she landed in her father's arms. Roja! As he's holding her, her mother walks in and turns white. That's the last she would see her father as they escaped from that ghetto, somehow deciding to leave him there because dark hair, blonde hair. My mother and Grandma Stella escaped through an outhouse where a kind caretaker allowed them to hide. And they went to Warsaw, where a gentleman named Adam Jacques and his daughter Hanka took my grandmother and my mother in. And my mother hid for years with Hanka, pretending to be her sister, pretending that she didn't know who my mom was, or who her mom was. Hiding in closets, hiding in farmhouses. She survived, frozen, afraid to show that she was Jewish when the boys would call Juden. She froze. When the Russians came in and liberated them, they sang music, they sang songs. The Russian soldiers liberated Warsaw. And the Haganah took my mother and my grandmother over to the American side, where she attended school in Munich and learned how to play the Hungarian Rhapsody by heart. They made it through Ellis Island and came to America. She met my father there, my father Avram Ber Gelbart, whose 94th birthday was yesterday. She's 88, 65 years of marriage. My father had been born in a shtetl called Kolobutsk, outside of Częstochowa, near the German boundary. When the Anschluss happened, they took over the city, the shtetl, very quickly, shooting the strong uncle first. My grandfather Mordechai, whom I'm named after, he was a bit of a rebel. My father as well, myself. My father would hide under his grandmother Bobaruchel's apron while she stood with the cleaver behind the counter at the butcher store that they fed the people from. My father would go and choose out the fattest cows and measure them and say, oh, this one. They would ride the cows back. He would play, he and his 3 sisters. He was on a death march. He survived because his friends said, calloused hands, he can work. And they helped him. Help all along the way. Help comes all along the way, or we wouldn't be here. The kindness of strangers. The helpfulness of friends. He was liberated from Buchenwald concentration camp, April 11th, and we celebrate his liberation day every April 11th. He is one of the funniest, wittiest human beings that I know. My father Avram, who didn't know if his sisters had survived and didn't know if his parents had survived. Can you imagine when he found his sisters and they found him? That moment is a moment that lives in me so deeply as that hope, as that strength, as that resilience. My aunts, they were amazing. They married Holocaust survivors, all of them. Badass uncles, you did not mess with them. And they gave us the childhood that they hadn't had. I was playful, I'm a little bit playful, a little bit joyful, a little bit enthusiastic. I feel like I'm making up for lost joy. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of that. So again, Ellis Island, Cleveland, Ohio. My parents meet at a bakery in Cleveland. My dad is told, ask her to climb the ladder so you can see her legs. I asked my dad once, Dad, what's harder? Surviving a concentration camp or marriage? He answered in a moment without hesitation. Marriage. Just in case you wondered there. I was in the jungle of the Amazon River, and 6 hours in with the Shipibo tribe, drinking a plant medicine named ayahuasca. Very strong root, purgative, clears you out. 3 ceremonies, and I landed each time in my elementary school playground. Landed there in my mind, saw everyone, everything, everywhere, all at once. The playfulness, the safety of that place. The innocence of my childhood. And then I found myself floating on a canoe into the spirit world. And I heard my grandparents speak to me. You know, if you haven't heard someone's voice, how do you know them? And I heard them speak. I heard their voice, their voices, and we speak now. We have conversations. And my grandfather Yosef, my Papa Yosef, he placed an amulet on me. His hands, the maker of shoes, placed this amulet, multicolored amulet on me. I love Yosef, the biblical character that we all love, and the coat of many colors. And it felt that his hands were right there in me, and I felt this sense of deep approval. And whenever I think of my Papa Yosef, I feel his approval. And when I ask questions or thank and honor, we can honor and thank our ancestors. And we can heal backwards and forwards in time. By thanking them, they thank us. By remembering them and honoring them, and I go right back at you. My grandmother Leva lives right here in my heart. And what I feel with her is unconditional love. I could say something risque here. Shall I? Let's see, audience.
Yes.
Well, I was going to a party. I'm a kind of social guy. I dance a lot. I have a lot of friends that dance a lot and have a lot of fun. I was going to this party and it was a little risque. Let's put it that way. And I said, Grandma Leva, how do you feel about me going to this party? And she said, as long as you go with love. My grandma Stella, having survived by escaping, broke down after the war. And in the 60s, she had electroshock treatment. And they put her on the wrong medicines. And there were survivors and there were revivers. And she was a survivor that didn't quite revive. In the spirit world, I feel her revival. And she would pinch me on the cheeks. And she would feed me bananas. And she would call me monkey. So I feel her in my cheeks. We'd watch the Ed Sullivan Show in the 60s and The Wonderful World of Disney. So as I share this, I imagine many emotions that are going through all of you. Your memories, your associations, your ancestors. So I'd like to just take a moment here to really thank the generations behind us that lived through us, that we're these unique expressions of. So all of our ancestors are here in this feast. And our healing is their healing. And our joy is their joy. And our dances are their dances. And our voices are their voices. My grandfather, Mordechai, whom I'm named after. My father is Avram Ber. And in Hebrew, we say in the tradition, son of or daughter of. And he's Avram Ber ben Mordechai. And I'm Mordechai ben Avram Ber. So when we greet each other on the phone, hey, Avram Ber ben Mordechai. Hey, Mordechai ben Avram Ber. And this is resilience. And this is faith, Gam Ze L'Tova. We don't always know that something hard and trauma is going to be healed. That's what faith is. It's trusting. Like getting up on the stage today. Jeff didn't know if this was going to rock. I was nervous. But when it comes time, we're all here with one another and we're in this collective healing. And so trusting that is what I've learned from this story that I've shared with you. And thank you so much.